brain plays a much bigger role in deciding the pain we feel than many people realise. But if it's possible to feel pain that isn't really there, does it work the other way round? Could we use mind over matter to switch off pain sensations that are there? This is a question that's about to become very important to my future well-being. I've arrived in a place called Blaricum in the Netherlands. I'm joining 300 people who are about to do something that most people wouldn't dream of doing slap bang in the middle of winter. They're going to stand neck deep in really cold lake water for over 5 minutes. Why? Because they believe that not only will they not feel the pain, but also they'll hardly feel the cold. Now, I hate the cold. I'm a huge wimp in that regard, and like most people, I'm not that keen on pain either. But I've been set a challenge to join them. So will I take the plunge or not? Well, to find out, we'll need to rewind to my very first meeting with the man who's responsible for this whole bizarre enterprise. Wim Hof is a Dutch daredevil, more commonly known as the Iceman, for his ability to withstand extreme cold. Wim claims to be able to control his autonomic nervous system, and that this ability can be learned. He's a man who could give us a genuinely extraordinary insight into how our bodies can control pain. By the time Wim reached his teenage years, he was already comfortable running barefoot through the snow, but it was a personal tragedy that pushed him to take this to new extremes. In 1995, he began to experiment with ice baths, building to his first world record attempt.
Hey, Wim. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Jack.
Lovely to meet you.
That's the way.
How are you?
Right on.
Are you not... I'm all wrapped up like this. Are you not a touch cold?
No, I'm used to.
Yeah?
So anybody can do this, but you have to get used to it.
You say anyone can do this, but I am terrible in the cold. I'm a wimp. Look at me. I've got 4 layers on.
That's only a vascular condition of being so much in the comfort zone.
So if I get out of my comfort zone, I'll be able to cope with this kind of cold?
I will teach you.
Yeah?
Today.
Let's do it.
This morning.
I can't wait.
How could Wim not feel pain when submerged in ice for over an hour? How could he climb to an altitude of 22,000 feet in nothing but shorts and shoes? This man has some explaining to do.
I know a little bit about what you do, but one of the key questions that I've always been fascinated by is, where did it all come from?
I lost my wife in '95.
Oh, no.
And 4 children with her. So I brought my own children up alone. And
single parent?
Yes, with a lot of grief and broken heart.
It's not in our collective knowledge how to deal with that kind of loss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I found it my silence within by going into nature and exposing my body into extreme nature until this stillness, this peace inside, the power of life itself came back on again.
So once you started getting that feeling, you then thought, presumably, I need to do more of this. I need to explore further. Where did the breathing come into it? The element of breathing, how did you discover that that was important?
I began to notice that if I began to breathe deeper, I was able to stay longer in the ice. And this big sensation, this deep sensation of being came into me and made me able to oxygenate so much that in 25 of deep breathing breaths, I could stay like 5 minutes or 7 minutes under the ice.
Can you teach me some breathing techniques like now?
I got some cushions.
Yeah.
We relax and that's the way.
Brilliant.
Let's go.
Deeply in. Letting go. Take him in. Become lightheaded. Loosen the body. Tingling. Now the last one. Deeply in. Letting go. Stop after exhalation.
Wim is able to hold his breath with ease for over 6 minutes, while his entire body is submerged underwater. Cold water, obviously. He claims it's possible for everyone, and that the foundation lies in proper breathing. Through some very simple breathing techniques, he believes you can learn to control not only various aspects of the autonomic nervous system, but even your immune system too.
Okay, breathe in, keep it in for 10 seconds. You had 1 minute, 10 seconds without air in the lungs. Okay, let's go into the second round.
Let's do it.
Last one, fully in, letting go. Stop. Just let the chemistry do its work. 140 almost. 20 seconds more to 2 minutes. 50. Ah, that's good enough. Get it in. Keep it 10 seconds. And press a little bit to your brain. Oh. It's like natural drugs. You
Wait, you said press a little bit into your brain.
Yeah.
I just shot through all my knowledge of the anatomy of the brain, the cranium, and I was like, nah, that's not possible. And I tried it, and it felt a lot better. I don't know how. Yeah, I think you're going to rewrite some anatomy books too.
Now we are going to do push-ups without air in the lungs. There we go. Ready? Go. 30. Feel it.
I was high after 5.
Yeah. Good. Stop. Push up.
After the breathing and meditation exercises, Wim wants me to challenge my body and see how this has affected my pain threshold. 40 push-ups should do the trick.
40.
I got to 25.
Yes.
And then I forgot where I was, and I was going faster.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
Right on.
With no oxygen.
How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel great. I'm not going to lie, good isn't enough. I feel great.
In the last 20 minutes, I've held my breath for longer than ever before and completed 40 press-ups without feeling any pain. Wim believes his breathing techniques have short-circuited my ability to feel the burn.
I've heard of the concept of if you stimulate pain receptors, then after a while they stop sending the messages so much. But I've never come across the concept of switching them off even before you've done anything with them. Yeah, that's amazing. It kind of makes me want to jump into cold water, but actually, no, because anytime I get in cold water, I always get a cold. So I'm not going to do it. Wim Hof is one of the most inspirational people I've ever met in my life. But even though he's very charismatic, I'm extremely skeptical. If there's no scientific data, I will be very dubious about what I'm being told.
So, coming up, I'm going to meet the scientific community who've taken a closer look at what's really going on inside Wim's body.
What Wim's extraordinary techniques show us is that we all have the capacity to suppress pain. But you have to be pretty bold to sit in an ice-cold bath for a whole...
Met Wim Hof, a man who's trained his mind to overcome fear and his body to overcome pain. But what is it that Wim is doing that most of us can't? How does he maintain that level of control? It's a question that Wim himself is curious to answer. He's been working closely with scientists to try and understand what's happening to his mind and body. Matthias Cox and Peter Pickers are professors at the Department of Intensive Care, Rathbode University. Their speciality is the immune system. They think that Wim's technique could be the key to not only understanding immediate discomfort, but also, potentially, chronic pain. Their studies show that he can control his autonomic nervous system, something that science previously thought was impossible.
A lot of people ask, how did you get in contact with Wim Hof? But actually, he found us. We didn't find him. He was doing an experiment in the Department of Physiology, and he was standing in ice, what he does often, and they were measuring his baseline metabolic rate. And it was actually quite amazing that his baseline metabolic rate went up with 300%, and his core temperature went up, not down, when he was standing in ice. And while he was there, he mentioned, by the way, I can also influence my immune system by using my techniques.
Hey. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Peter. How are you? Good to see you again, man.
When we started to work with Wim Hof, we were actually quite reluctant. I looked him up and I watched his movies on YouTube and I found out the things that he did. So we said, well, he's a little bit of a crazy guy, but he has done things that are really, really remarkable. So maybe we should give him a chance. His first claim was, I can modulate my immune response. But then he came with his second claim, and he said, I can teach this to other people. And so then we said, all right, in that case, we can do a study in which you train healthy volunteers that have no experience with meditation, with cold exposure, with anything. We injected them with endotoxin, and when the numbers came back, they were amazing indeed.
What we wanted to talk about today is the next study.
We've seen in the previous study that using your whole set of techniques, you can modulate your immune system via your autonomic nervous system. And now we, as Professor Pickers alluded to, we want to peel it apart.
So the brain is one thing, but we have the breathing techniques and we have the exposure to cold. And so we want to dissect how important it is to do the three combined, or maybe we can leave out one or two and make it more feasible for older people or patients.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking about that too, to make it accessible, simple and effective for any person, and for that I'm very, very...
So what does modulating your immune response really mean? And how could this help people with chronic pain? The role of the immune system is to protect against disease or other potentially damaging foreign bodies. But sometimes our body's immune system attacks and destroys healthy body tissue by mistake. There are more than 80 types of autoimmune disorders, and often this can lead to chronic pain. Matthias and Peter's research with Wim explores the notion that humans can consciously control their immune system, which could have important implications for the treatment of a variety of conditions. Before now, both the autonomic nervous system and innate immune system were regarded as systems that could not be voluntarily influenced. This research has shed new light on their relationship, and in the process, the Rathbode team have begun to challenge established medical theory.
If you could modulate your immune response by just doing these techniques, this would help in patients with these diseases. The immune response we measured during endotoxemia is a very objective measure because we measure it in the lab, it's proteins in the blood, and we found indeed that with the techniques that you teach to the healthy volunteers, they were able to modulate that.
If you look at the textbooks, the autonomic nervous system, the name says it, it's autonomic, so you cannot willingly or voluntarily influence it. That goes also for the immune system, actually. It's something that you have no influence over whatsoever yourself.
There are many, many diseases that are caused by hyperinflammation, a too persistent, too pronounced immune response.
If we would be able to show that this works in patients, it would be a method in which patients can do something about their own disease.
So you know what we are planning and what we will do?
Most exciting.
Yes, and we will keep you informed.
I love science.
Keep in touch.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
My big day has almost arrived. Tomorrow, I'll join 300 people who are ready to put Wim's technique to the test. It's clear that Wim has opened some fascinating lines of inquiry for the scientific community. But I still need to understand why and how this can stop me feeling the extreme pain caused by freezing water. Luckily, I've booked in for a late-night pep talk from one of the strongest advocates of the Wim Hof technique, Pierre Capel, Professor Emeritus of Experimental Immunology at Utrecht University. The Wim Hof method involves several different components. Most obviously, there's the breathing technique. How does that contribute to his ability to control his bodily sensations?
If you ventilate and you blow off CO2, he gets rid of excess of CO2. It changes the pH of the blood. The pH rises. At a higher pH, you don't feel pain.
So this explains why I could do so many push-ups. There are all kinds of pain receptors around my body, and Wim's breathing technique was seemingly able to disable some of these by raising the pH level in my blood.
Wim describes the fact that he's in a very specific state of mind, which could be described as meditation.
Sure.
How does that influence the overall sort of mind over matter phenomenon?
Stress in the natural way is good, but that has a time frame. It starts and it stops. Chronic stress has no start and no stop. The natural stress reaction is life-saving. The chronic stress is life-ruining. And so if you do the Wim Hof method by breathing for 20 minutes, which is a type of meditation, then you switch off the devastating effect of the chronic stress.
Being active, meditating, breathing, special breathing practices, all of these things can actually boost your overall level of well-being?
Yes, and it spirals.
We can even extend our life.
Just enjoy life for half an hour all by yourself. That is it.
Well, I'm convinced. At least enough to make my way to the big event. The youngest participant is 11, and the oldest is 72. And the latest temperature test has the water at just 5 degrees centigrade.
Okay,
First, Wim warms everyone up with his breathing techniques. Warming up alongside me are people with a range of health problems, from multiple sclerosis to severe back pain. It's the big moment. I'm finally in the water. But will it work?
Complicated. 3 30-second bouts of crazy breathing, and anyone can do that. Wimp no longer. Now I'm Wimp. I can't believe I did it. If you ask anyone that knows me well, they will tell you I am terrible in the cold. I'm a real wimp. I'm always wrapped up with much more layers than anyone else. But today, I was in there for 5 minutes, and you know what? I don't know whether it was the Wim Hof effect or whether it was the Wim Hof method. But either way, I was right next to him. By doing all the breathing techniques for ages beforehand and all the muscle stuff, it meant that I brought up the pH of my blood by removing the carbon dioxide. That decoupled the proteins in my pain receptors, which meant that I didn't feel pain when I was in there. Then the muscles, as Prof. Capel told us, produced various myokines, which also change the way your DNA expresses itself. And for all of these reasons and more, I was relatively comfortable in an otherwise very stressful situation. But Wim would, of course, kill me if I didn't point out that all I did was use the cold water to shock myself into its natural state. And as you may be able to tell, I feel high as a kite. So I would highly recommend it to anyone. And you wouldn't have caught me saying that 24 hours ago.
From how we can feel pain purely because our brains tell us to, how we can be taught to develop fear but also to overcome it, to the ability of the body to withstand much more pain than you'd ever think possible.
Together, these remarkable stories take us ever closer to unlocking the incredible secrets of the brain. So no need to be scared then.